Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to crush, humiliate, and totally destroy your competition in your fantasy football draft. It's incredibly simple, so let me just break it down for you. Ultimate Draft Kit. The Ultimate Draft Kit for the fantasy footballers is hands down the best fantasy tool in existence. I mean, come on. It's got sleepers, it's got busts, injury updates, full projections. This thing's even got full dynasty rankings. Don't overthink this. It's the only wingman you'll need this year. Head over to ultimatedraftkit.com and grab your copy right away.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Big episode. The Fantasy Footballers, Mike Wright, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway. Coming at you.
Coming to yeehaw! Yeehaw! Let's go. Top 10 tips and tricks. Thank you.
It's a big episode. Top 10 tips and tricks to win your league, this is our 10th season. And I'm pretty sure we've done this every year. So we've got to be pushing.
Oh my gosh. That's 100.
That's 100 ways that you can give yourself an advantage. So we always try to bring something new to the table. So we've got 10 tips and tricks, some strategy advice for you on the show today. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun.
I am too. I've been looking forward to this show for quite a while, and I'm also looking forward to tomorrow's episode. Whatever it is. We don't know.
We do.
Well, we know.
Yeah, we know.
They don't know.
Yeah, but they're very good episodes this week. I'll say this. Today's the top 10 tips and tricks episode.
They're
narrowing it down.
They'll never
And
figure it out.
My Guys is coming soon.
It's this week, but it could be Friday.
It could be Thursday or Friday. Yeah. Lots going on. Very, very excited to have you with us. Thank you for supporting the show. Shout out to the Foot Clan, everybody supporting at jointhefoot.com. Shout out to everybody coming out to see us in Los Angeles in less than 2 weeks, which you can do. Ballerslive.com if you want to know more about our live event at the Palace Theater in Los Angeles, presented by Sleeper. And, of course, I don't want to bury this because it's the biggest week for the UDK and for this giveaway.
UDK.
But on Friday, we've got the UDK for Life giveaway live on YouTube. We'll be streaming the giveaway. We'll be giving away a Justin Jefferson jersey. And all you have to do is pick up the UDK before Friday. So if you bought it in the past, you're entered to win. If you haven't bought it yet, you're kind of behind the 8 ball here.
So long as the past was this year. you have to have gotten the 2024 Ultimate Draft Kit.
You're not entered if you're the 2017
to automatically be in there. But go get it now. This is the time, man. Draft season is upon us. We're right around the corner. Take a look at the 100+ video profile, breakdowns of each of the top players, our tiered rankings. That's the way we try to encourage everyone to draft, is based on tiers. We're going to give you a lot of tips and tricks today, and some of them will be, it'll correlate to what you can do with that tool.
Yep, and this is the time. We see it every year. People are listening, but this is when they jump into the Ultimate Draft Kit. That's ultimatedraftkit.com. All right, I'm excited about this. We had a week 1 of preseason football, so let's talk about it.
Welcome to Hungry for More, presented by Uber Eats.
All right, looking at preseason week 1 and players we are hungry for more from, I have to bring up a name that is kind of, it's percolated throughout the offseason, and there are other names involved in the wide receiver discussion in Cincinnati. But it doesn't hurt if you come out in week 1 and go 3 for 82 and a big touchdown. Jermaine Burton of the Cincinnati Bengals the big play is the MO for Jermaine Burton. So to see it in preseason week 1, I mean, this is a guy that was top 5, or actually he led Power 5 wide receivers in average depth of target. So
we got to hit him with that number. Average depth of target. So this is how far he was down the field on average when he was catching the ball.
20.2 yards down the field.
That's unbelievable.
He was also like 3rd fastest in next-gen stats and ran a 4.45. So, you talk about what makes a wide receiver 3, if he ends up winning that job, valuable when you're not number 1 in the pecking order of targets or number 2 with Higgins and Chase. It is the big play. And even Tyler Boyd, it sounds funny because we don't look at Tyler Boyd as an explosive player necessarily by, kind of archetype. But in that offense, even Tyler Boyd regularly was kind of forgotten about by the secondary and would end up with these big plays. So I want to see more Jermaine Burton in the preseason.
I love this call so much. I mean, he should be higher in most people's dynasty rankings and perceived long-term value than he is right now. I think he's undervalued. T. Higgins obviously is not going to be on this team next year. At least that's what it seems like right now. And so you're talking about a future 2 for Joe Burrow. I love it. I'm going to talk about a current 2, but not really, for the Tennessee Titans running game, and that's Tyjae Spears. I want to see more of Tyjae Spears. It's very, very interesting. This entire offseason, there has been complete consistency from the coaching staff about their running back core, that they have 2 starters, that it is a 1A and a 1A. I mean, a 1A, 1B at the least. Like, it's someone's going to get the first snap. Tony Pollard had a great preseason game. He got the first snap. Second snap, Spears. Then they basically, every couple plays, they just rotated out. We haven't really seen something like that a lot, but this is really, truly, both of those guys could be out there on every single down. All the plays they're capable of playing. Should either one of them get injured, the other could be a really great asset. But when I look at these 2 players, and I think, okay, Tony Pollard looked good this preseason game. He's getting paid more, sure. But look at last year, and look at, last year Tony Pollard was disappointing. He was not the same explosive back he was years prior, and he's older than you think he is now, whereas Tyjae Spears was extremely explosive. He had a reception of 48 yards, a reception of 42 yards, a reception of 89 yards, a reception of 41. Like, he's a really explosive back. And if he's being utilized and they go with the hot hand, I think there's a good chance that his hand is hotter than Tony Pollard as the season goes on.
Is that the test on the sideline? Do they?
Yeah, they do a handshake.
Yeah.
They do. They
don't go the laser thermometer.
Oh,
no.
This is
coach
Old school.
feel.
High
Man.
T.
Okay.
This is straight up. Give me a hearty handshake on the sideline. Line up. Pollard, you get first handshake. Tyjae, you get second. Give me one of your strong. And then he's going to be like, whoa.
Literal hot hand approach.
That's exactly right.
Look, I like the idea of them having a kind of an old school green chalkboard on the sideline, and it's just a dash for every carry for each guy.
Yes.
It evens it up.
When he said Spears was in on the second snap, it was, imagine if, no matter what the rules for the Titans are, it's every other snap.
No matter
it's
what.
locked.
Do you know how tired those running backs would be? It's not like just
half the running is getting off the field.
The amount of running just to get out there. It's like, Coach, please leave me on the field. I'm tired every snap.
Believe it or not, we have a Sam DeSorbo wrote a "Does the Hot Hand Exist" article on the website that you can go look up. So apparently we have an article for everything you could say, Jason.
Sweet.
Which is scary. All right, Mike, who do you got? Who are you hungry for more?
am the Senate.
Ben Sinnott, baby. The senator of Washington. Did you see it?
Oh,
Did you see the play? I am famished and I need more Ben Sinnott.
Sinnott.
I need more Ben Sinnott in my life. It was rumbling and bumbling and stumbling and dragging multiple defenders down the field. He looks like the guy that I scouted and hoped it would translate. He is a rookie tight end for Washington. Yes.
Mike?
Voice of public opinion.
Zach Ertz is eternal and immortal.
He is, and unfortunately, the offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, loves Zach Ertz, so I still do think that it takes time for Ben Sinnott. However, this is about being hungry for more of a player, and it's hard to have a better debut in limited snaps than what he put out there. 3 for 57. The big catch was 44 yards. He looked big, he looked strong, he looked fast, and this is what I need from a tight end. So hopefully, sooner than later, hopefully, Ben Sinnott can take the job. He was the highest graded rookie tight end, or highest graded from PFF. So it's very exciting.
It is a little bit comical, the parallels between the McBride and the Patience.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
outrageous.
You saw the individual plays for McBride, and it was stuff like dragging guys down the field or breaking tackles. And then you see this from Sinnott, and both had Zach Ertz just
catching and falling,
and Cliff Kingsbury involved in their maturation process. But good names for Hungry for More. That was Hungry for More, presented by Uber Eats. Get almost anything for game day delivered with Uber Eats, official on-demand food delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. And I will say this.
Oh, what?
This is not a tip or trick to win on game day, but it is.
Give us one to lose.
It is a I figured you could write that book. The tips and tricks that I mean, what we eat, what we get delivered is very dependent on how the week and day is going.
For sure.
I'm just saying, we've had some ice cream afternoons to kind of medicate away the pain, and then we've had some celebratory meals.
It's so fabulous on a Sunday morning to have, like, if you're watching your fantasy team and your guys put up an absolute stinker. You're in a bad. It's not my fault. I'm in a bad mood. It's their fault. And you know what? It's not my fault. I'm going to put down a half gallon of ice cream right now. That's their fault.
That is.
But I'm gonna love it.
That's how it works.
Yeah, it's my player. It's my player's fault that this Crunchwrap Supreme is
you
in my
imagine?
mouth. It's your fault.
Can you imagine when you talk to your doctor and they're like, "Sir, what are some of the things leading to your challenges with food?"
Tony Pollard. It's like, what?
Who's that? All right, let's jump in.
News and notes from around the league, presented by USAA Insurance.
All right, we've got news for you. We do. Jamar Chase, Mike, you are not doing work with your guys at all. Jamar Chase missed Tuesday's practice.
I'm keeping him healthy.
He's awaiting a contract extension still, so he had been showing up and involved during drills. I don't like.
You had to go next level.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the come back, do some drills, then I'm out again.
It's just, I mean,
give me my money.
Yeah, give me my money, or I'm gonna go home and figure it out.
I'm curious. So, obviously, Jamar Chase, he's by rule has to be fined for all of these missed practices in the new collective bargaining agreement.
Same with CeeDee Lamb.
Same with all these guys.
Which
However,
cannot be rescinded.
They can't be rescinded, but they can be restored on the contract. They add it usually to the contract that they eventually sign. But I was thinking about that with Brandon Ayuk. If he ends up getting traded, he's probably just losing that money. Then you know what I mean?
Maybe
are the Steelers going to add in all of his fines from him missing practices on the Niners?
I think
don't know
they're going to add in so much. I mean, the contract's going to be
that's fair,
beautiful. So I mean, right now, I mean, we don't have it. We don't have an update officially
for Ayuk,
but I do. I mean, it's worth bringing up right here just to give you a lay of the land. If you're listening to this show and you want to know what's going on, and we have been talking about Brandon Ayuk as it stands right now. Essentially, what's being reported by the best in the business is a contract agreement and a trade has been agreed to in principle between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers. The only thing remaining is for the 49ers to give their final sign-off to the deal. The reason that hasn't happened yet is because they have made some final overtures to Brandon Ayuk about a long-term deal, and it seems like it's going to come down to Brandon Ayuk choosing a financially better situation for a team he does want to play for. He wants to go to Pittsburgh, or San Francisco coming far enough on their offer to bridge that gap and keep him in a situation where he's thrived.
The last report I saw is it's just a difference of years now from San Francisco. Again, these are all secondhand reports that we're getting, but there was news yesterday that's, they're The San Francisco, they've come up. They're not that far apart. But if you're like, no, you're a full year apart, that's a big amount of money actually apart.
Yeah, this is – I mean, we've all been in fantasy leagues where we're trying to trade for a guy. And that owner's like, yeah, I think I'm going to do it. I gotta talk to my co-manager. I gotta do something. I'll get back to you.
Let me run the numbers.
Can you imagine how upset the Steelers are right now? Like the GM in the office, his door is shut and he's cursing out the night. He's like, "Come on,
yeah,
you've had weeks."
You know what's funny is you asked me the question on the show like a month ago about how long would you wait for a deal, and the truth is, if I think it's in my advantage, I wait. Like I waited 2 weeks for a deal in our Dynasty League because I liked it for myself. So maybe the Steelers are in that boat where it's like,
oh, they are.
We don't expect it. We didn't expect the chance to get a guy like Brandon Ayuk. It's on the table. We might as well just ride this thing.
But I guess I'm saying shame on you Niners. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, come on.
It's not helping.
I'm saying, come on.
If they make a trade and they get something in return, like it's not helping them to wait. Like get ready for the season with the personnel you have. And it's not helping Brandon Ayuk if you are going to bring him back to not have him on the field practicing. So, yeah, the delay, not great. This is great, though. Lions head coach Dan Campbell, a.k.a. Guns Mahoney, says he thinks Jahmyr Gibbs is, quote, gonna be fine.
Oh, yeah? Keep reading there.
Let me give you the exact quote. I think we're going to be fine here, Campbell said. So I think we'll be good.
Okay, he's thinking they're fine, thinking they're good. That's
not a doctor.
Okay.
Do you want that reply, or do you want the Jim Harbaugh reply of, I'm not even qualified to be qualified to talk about this? Do you want the tantalizing possibility of him being fine, or do you want nothing at all?
No, I think I do prefer this, the dog in the fire gif, where this is fine. We're all fine here. I mean, I guess it's better than saying I don't think we're going to be fine. I think we're going to miss games, but when you hear this, it makes me feel like
could have been more certain.
It makes me a little fearful of week one. This sounds to me, not a doctor, but this sounds to me like I think we're going to be okay for week one. I want you to say we will be.
All right, Hollywood Brown, 4 to 6 weeks. Mike, you had kind of nailed this. You had talked about some previous injury history with this. I'm going to go for it. Sternoclavicular.
Yep,
nailed it.
Yeah.
Injury. So here we are, Justin Watson taking reps with the first team.
And that is because when Hollywood went down, they put in Sky Moore in replacement during the first preseason game. And then they went, oh, that sucks. Justin Watson, you are now.
You're kind of like summarizing what you think the internal thoughts were.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy.
I think they're like, who let Sky go out there again?
Yeah.
He just ran out.
Yeah, who did this?
With a Watson jersey on. Giants rookie running back Tyrone Tracy Jr.
Wow.
Was diagnosed with a low right ankle sprain after he got injured during practice. I'm sorry, everyone. We reported what was reported to us. It wasn't a made-up report. We were told he was air casted and brought to a hospital for special surgery. Now, the hospital clearly, did they turn him away because they said,
dude, you just got an ankle sprain?
Like everybody, like I love the comments on this. I think the Falcon was sharing these with us yesterday because when these news, the news breaks, you look at the comments from these major reports, and it came out that he had a low right ankle sprain, and the first comment was like, I thought he was dead.
Yeah,
it was like, how do you go from like aircast season over to you're gonna be fine, you're in meetings and nothing's wrong?
Yeah, he was back in meetings.
Is this a pain tolerance issue?
He feels strong.
Well, so that's my question: is there's really only two paths of truth here. It's either he is like a Wolverine. And the doctors got out there
he doesn't have an ankle sprain anymore.
Doctors got out there on the field and said, oh, my gosh, aircast him, get him to the hospital immediately. And by the time he's there, it's like, I'm good. or he's more like, Owl, and it's like, owie, 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 owie. And when he got injured on the field, it's like, owie, 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 owie.
Thoughts on that, Al?
No thoughts.
I have a third option.
Al's so tough.
He Paul pierced and he pooped his pants, and he needed a way out. He needed a way off that field.
Doc, tell him the foot's out. Tell him the foot's off my leg.
Mac Jones turned down surgery?
Oh yeah,
right?
oh yeah. Lesser players would have got the surgery.
Is that the Tyrone Tracy? Like
Maybe.
So, anyways, the good news is here, Tyrone Tracy seems like he's going to be fine for the season.
I guess.
Awesome.
That's big news.
It is really good. I mean, all jokes aside, this is great news.
Deontay Johnson, day-to-day with a groin strain. So groinindex.com already updated. And there you go. Getting news. What is this?
This is an evolving or developing story. We just got word that Mike Evans is leaving. There's a joint practice right now between the Bucs and the Jaguars, and Mike Evans was seen leaving with helmet in hand.
No, it says specifically with Jags helmet in hand. So I'm just curious, did he rip a helmet off another player?
It is written that way. We could have used a comma.
Okay.
Because it's leaving joint practice with Jags.
I see.
Comma. Helmet in hand.
Yes, okay, I see it now.
I so omitted it because I read it the same way, and I was like, that
this
can't.
is not rock and jock. He got traded in the middle of practice.
Or
You
took
break-
a
do, leaving with a Jags helmet on. Okay,
Oh,
no, he
man.
left the joint practice with the Jags, helmet in hand.
So we'll pay
all right.
attention. He also pulled up in like a. Did you see?
He pulled up in a Bucs helmet.
He pulled up in like a
Literally.
like a gigantic like car that was a Bucs helmet.
Oh, for real?
It was
That's-
awesome.
You got to see the video.
All right, that was today's news and notes presented by USAA Insurance. Learn more at usaa.com/insurance. We will take a break, and we'll jump right into the tips and tricks. All right, it's time to jump into the tips and tricks to win your league. And again, one more reminder for you. Please come and join us for the Megala show in Los Angeles presented by Sleeper. We've got lots of giveaways going on live at the show from Pristine Auction. We're working with Fantasy Cares as well, and this is our 10th anniversary event. You can go to ballerslive.com to come and join us.
It's next Saturday.
Yeah, it's we're
Gonna be part of the Q&A.
gonna need to travel over there and to do the show.
I'm already there.
All right.
Tips and tricks.
I don't know why you're laughing, and I'm afraid to ask.
No, it's the video graphic.
That video graphic was outstanding. I mean, you got Professor Holloway and Magician Jason. That was pretty silly.
All right.
I had like a sweater on or something.
This episode helps you win championships. So we want to bring something new each and every year. Very excited. Time to kick it off.
Number 10.
All right, we'll call number 10, don't live in the past, right? There were a lot of players drafted last year that had very, very hot starts to the season, and it is very much human nature, the nature of fantasy football managers, to believe that they are set, that they have figured out exactly the roster that's going to carry them through the season just because players get off to a hot start. Examples of that, like Travis Etienne and A.J. Brown had the blistering pace, and people traded for him, and Ken Walker started really, really strong, and I've got other examples for you. Tua was the quarterback 5 through the first 8 weeks. From week 9 on, quarterback 20. DeAndre Swift was the RB7. From week 12 on, the RB35.
I like that you have them called the hotness and the notness.
The hotness and the notness. Yeah, these were players you thought were locks. In fact, I traded Tua to Mike on the basis of the first half of the season.
He was presented to me as the hotness.
Did you get the notness?
No. I got up close and realized this is not.
Yeah, it's not good. Stephon Diggs was the wide receiver 4 from week 11 on, the wide receiver 46. And again, these are not small spans. These are top 5, 6, 7 players for 8 to 10 weeks of the season. And then over the back half of the year, they were players that you would have, in some cases, definitely pivoted away from, like Tua, was not going to win you a championship. So the message here, the tip here is don't copy and paste every previous week. It's not viable to simply do that. You do not win on paper. You do not win on the past or looking at previous stats. And here's a little bit of a nuanced part of the equation. It's not just the schedule changing. It's not just injury to your player, but there are also fundamental injuries that happen to players that your player is dependent on. So that's something people don't necessarily pay attention to. You might have a hot start for a wide receiver, but their quarterback might go down. You might have a running back that's been dominant, but their offensive lineman might go down. So paying attention to more than the injuries for your exact player could help define the second half of the year. And it is easy and it's human nature to want to merely coast your way to the end with that beautifully pictured roster, but do not live in the past. Live week to week and make adjustments isolated to that time and place.
Okay, I've got a question for you on this.
No questions? Sorry?
All right, the number 9.
Yeah.
So you traded Tua when he was the hotness. You didn't even bring up like what I thought was last year's best example, Patrick Mahomes, who was the quarterback 3 through the first 9 weeks, and then from week 10 on, he was the quarterback 18. At the halfway point through the season, or maybe 5-6 weeks in, are you willing to trade? So like Mahomes is more in the level of like a Josh Allen, a Jalen Hurts. You're expecting what he did, and you're expecting it to continue forever versus a Tua. Are you willing to take that first half of the season where you are hitting on your Josh Allen or your Jalen Hurts if you drafted them and trade them away to capitalize? Obviously, if you trade them, you're getting a haul back. Or is there like a tier break where, if it's not the super expected guys, if it's someone more that was drafted later and they're exploding, is that who you're trying to capitalize on?
Yes, it's a good question because there are players like Tyreek Hill, for example,
exactly,
who you don't want to go in and just say, well, every player that's playing well for the first half I want to trade. That's not the message. The message is if you do trade those players that might be outperforming their average, that would be probably the first line of my thinking is, are they outperforming a standard that I would expect them to be able to perform at? If you make a trade and you're basing it off of players you think are going to perform in the back half of the year, that moment you make the trade is even value, right?
Yes.
So even if that player keeps playing at this pace and the players I got back keep playing at their pace right then, I'm even. Theoretically.
Right.
But if I make the judgment call, this player's outperforming and I like the schedule for this guys, that's where it can flip the script. And the big component here is just don't sit back and think that I've got it all figured out. It's going to run this way the rest of the year. ETN was one of the I think he was RB2 over the first half of the year, just behind CMC. The back half of the year didn't score as much, but you could kind of see some of that. We talked about his touchdown dependency in the first half of the year. So those are the opportunities, right? The situations where you are, Etienne's not scoring 28 touchdowns this year. Like that's a very obvious thing that you can say. So it's a judgment call, but let's not rest on our laurels.
Number 9.
You're so comfy.
Number 9, I call this make delicious boxes. Okay? I mean, it's like,
Look, all right. Okay.
You're meal prepping for your draft here. This is what you're doing. Okay. You're getting ready to go in with just, oh man, I got this delicious treat, that delicious treat. And what I'm saying here is put some categories together in your mind of things that are important to you, archetypes of players. Okay. And I'm going to give you examples. I'm going to give you 5 of my delicious boxes this year. Okay. Player types, archetypes. I want one of these. And I look at who fits into that delicious box within the draft early, mid, late. Okay? So, for instance.
I got it.
Mobile quarterbacks with upside. That's what I want to leave my draft with. I like those type of players. And so I'm going to look and I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to know, well, I can get Anthony Richardson in the 5th round. I can get Kyler in the 6th or 7th round. I can get Jaden Daniels in the 10th round. Okay, so like I've got
so all three guys. Those 3 are in your.
They're in my delicious box of mobile quarterbacks with massive upside.
Got it.
So other boxes for me, there is a good friend JJ Zacharyson of the show. He did a study a long time ago about nebulous wide receiver cores that don't have one being drafted high. A lot of times there's value to be had there, and so when I look at unknown wide receiver hierarchies, like we're not exactly
You're going to build
sure.
another box.
I'm going to build another box, but I want them from good offenses. Okay, where you're not sure necessarily who's going to be the dude, but it's going to be a good offense. I got Tank Dell in the 5th.
Unknown.
I get it. The hierarchy is unknown.
He's the last drafted of the 3. I mean, he's behind Nico and
I'm with
Stephon
Jason
Diggs.
on that. Yeah,
Man, I already know the hierarchy, guys.
Oh, okay. Look,
time machine.
Yeah, Jaden Reed of the Packers. Packers are going to be great. Is it going to be Reed? I don't know. He's in the 6th. I can get him a couple rounds later. He's a 6'11", so almost 7th rounder. Or Rashee Rice. I think the Chiefs' offense is going to be great, and you can get him a little later. I want to leave with one of those types. Quickly, touchdowns, super important for fantasy football. So look at 10 touchdown potential tight ends. Laporta, he did it last year. Mark Andrews, a touchdown machine.
Yep.
Later in the draft, Jake Ferguson. At the running back, you got Derrick Henry. You know he's going to get double-digit touchdowns. David Montgomery later in the 6th. Raheem Morris late in your draft. Yes, not the coach. Raheem Mostert.
I think he's a 0 touchdown potential.
I'd give him 1. I think he could sneak in.
We are the only podcast that projects touchdowns for coaches. You can find that in the Ultimate Draft Kit.
Rookies usually prove to be good picks by the end of the year if they're quality players. So later in the draft, Malik Neighbors, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman.
I'm so happy Coleman made one of your boxes.
Yeah. I mean, there's potential, right? He could be the number 1 for Josh Allen.
He could potentially explode and be terrible.
Is this like the dinner, the pre-made dinner meals that have all the different sections in the box?
Yes, and you got that little tiny
what
dessert
to eat first.
Yeah, you always eat the little tiny dessert first, right? Isn't that what
TV
we all
dinners? Yeah,
that what we all eat first? Is the little tiny dessert?
I mean,
when it was the brownie or the apple one.
Oh, the apple, like the little apple crisp. Oh, baby. But yes, so what? And you don't have to be these players in these boxes, but take a look at your draft and be like, this is the type of player I want. Who qualifies through the draft, and so that you've got a game plan.
Yeah, makes sense.
Number 8.
I want to talk about finding the late-round running backs that can turn into starters for your team. So every year, we have running backs who are not drafted in the top 24, but they finish in the top 24. And I wanted to see, is there a path or just some information that can help at least give you an edge at figuring out who are these targets that I need to go after? So over the past 5 years, we see 8.5 teams without a top 24 running back drafted, which it makes sense because some teams have 2 guys slip into the top 24, and then there's the other 8. However, from those teams that don't have a top 24 running back drafted, we see an average of just over 5 running backs finish inside the top 24. Does that make sense? Just want to make sure everyone's following. So guys who are not drafted to be in the top 24, we see 5 of them on average make it into the top 24.
So it's trying to identify or find some signals to identify players that could be the ones that move up.
Exactly. And this is why it starts at team level projections. How good do you think an offense is going to be? Last year, DeAndre Swift, who we mentioned, he had a hot start. It wasn't great at the end, but it's still a really hot start.
Oh, he was a value for fantasy players.
James Cook, Isaiah Pacheco. It's hard to remember, but last year those guys were the RB 28, 29, and 30 in ADP. They were, because it wasn't, you weren't rock solid of, is Pacheco going to keep the job, James Cook? There's questions here. There's questions about the players. You know what there was not questions about?
The team.
The Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs. Those are great offenses.
That would be a delicious box.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. And I looked at it, and the thing in common of these guys who make the jump into the top 24, their offenses are finishing as top 14 scoring offenses. So it's identifying these guys, trying to project which offenses are going to be in the top half, and then look at the running backs who aren't being drafted like that. And right now, to me, there are 3 teams that I'm looking at that I know that they're going to have a high-powered offense. I'm just not sure about who it's going to be at the running back position. The Cincinnati Bengals. We got Zach Moss. We got Chase Brown. Which one is it going to be? I don't know for sure, but they're both being drafted outside the top 24. The Dallas Cowboys. I've been pushing for Rico Dowdle. You guys are a little bit more on the Ezekiel Elliott name, the brand side of that, but I think we're all in agreement. The Cowboys are going to be a very high-powered offense. And then the Chargers, that one sounds a little bit more strange, but Harbaugh and Giro, they put up high-powered offenses, and they do have a top-tier elite quarterback. So it's just those are 3 teams that I think are easy to look at. They don't
Say them again, the 3 teams?
The Bengals, the Cowboys, and the Chargers. They don't have a top 24 running back in ADP, and yet
top offenses.
I'll bet that a couple players from those teams are going to finish easily in the top 24.
I'll bet that is a good bet.
So you second?
Yes.
All right.
All those in favor?
Can you bet on bets? Do they let you bet on bets?
They let you bet on anything.
I will whisper it because I have just like, okay, what if he actually is okay? J.K. Dobbins, I have abandoned.
I thought you said you were going to whisper it.
J.K. Dobbins.
All right.
I've had to abandon him because he's coming off the Achilles injury, but things that are progressing, at least the way they're talking about depth charts over in the Chargers, those are the two guys like listed. I think they're even listed as co-starters. The Kamani Vidal-Sassoon, the hope of this late-round guy. As of right now, the people watching the team, he's projected to not make the team over Jarrett Patterson.
Yeah, working in a salon soon.
So I'm more and more open to the idea that Dobbins is a worthwhile pick.
It's a good one.
Number 7.
All right. It's going to be a little bit of a follow-up of a discussion we started yesterday on the tight end rankings. I'm going to title it Re-roll Your Tight End, but we'll get into what that means. We discuss a lot of the times the offseason, those conversations are around end-of-season rankings. And sometimes we're even surprised, especially at tight end, oh, wow, that guy was a top 10 guy. At tight end, top 10 really doesn't mean a lot.
No,
just being
doesn't.
inside the top 10 because
Right.
you're in a 10 to 12-man league, and that means you got one of the worst options if you're at the bottom of that group.
There was a year I loved, who was it, Trey Boo-Boo?
Yeah.
Trey Burton.
Trey Burton. And
unmitigated disaster.
Unmitigated disaster. He finishes the tight end 6 that year. It's like you can make it sound good, but he was terrible.
So a lot of the discussion yesterday was like, okay, Jason in particular, he loves those top 5 guys. He wants to take the best of them in the draft, and maybe part of that's going to be waiting to grab the 4th or 5th guy, and that also means you might not get the guy you want. You might have somebody pull the trigger sooner, and you're like, wow, I need to punt the tight end position. I might miss my guy at tight end. What I'm saying with this whole like re-roll, redraft your tight end is something that would have worked really well last year, and that is sometime during the middle of the season. Once we get data on strength of schedule and how teams defend the tight end position, give yourself a chance to redo your tight end position. If you look at the top 5 tight ends last year by stats, like the end-of-year top 5 was Laporta, Ingram, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle. That's how they finished. The top 5 tight ends over the back half, so from week 9 on, it was Laporta and Ingram. Okay, cool. They're still there. The next 3 were Njoku, McBride, and Ferguson over the second half of the season. You even had players like Isaiah Likely had monster weeks. Schultz had huge weeks over the back half of the season. If you played Njoku over Kelsey from week 9 on, you got 4.5 more fantasy points per week playing Njoku over Travis Kelsey. So if you miss your shot on locking in that position, I'm saying make it a point in your brain to say midseason, I'm going to make my move for a tight end. Because what we're not saying in our tight end ranking show is you don't need one. That's not the message. Just because you missed the top 5 is, oh, well, I can settle without a tight end. You win leagues because of great tight end performances. The problem is you think you missed the boat, and I'm saying let's re-roll that. Go back to the drawing board. It's not another draft in the middle of the year, but through a trade, you can identify somebody, take another shot, and that is kind of a luxury you get when you don't draft the top 5 guy in the regular draft, is you get the luxury of now I get to pivot. You don't feel obligated. Like if you had Kelsey, you're playing him 100% of those weeks because you have to, even though Njoku was going to outperform him by 5 points. So it gives you some flexibility. You can go back to the drawing board. You can re-roll the tight end.
This is also a great tip for long-term dynasty players. That if you listen in the offseason, I don't like drafting rookie tight ends in dynasty. They're much further down than the ADP on my my strategy, but I love trading for him later. You couldn't trade for Kyle Pitts early. You could later when he didn't, Trey McBride. Trey McBride was like, you could have gotten him so cheap after his rookie year, even a little bit into his sophomore year.
He was undrafted last year.
Yeah, and so it's like, trade for these guys. I love that tip for both redraft
Just
and
being conscious of it midseason to make a move for a league-winning tight end, I think is important.
Number 6.
I call this one stacks on stacks on stacks.
On stacks on stacks.
Yeah, baby. This is a tip and a trick for the Foot Clan because we want the Foot Clan to win championships, not just have a great season. We want you to have a great season, but we want you to win championships. And stacks are an advantage. A quarterback wide receiver stack, it's often thought of for DFS and best ball formats. But people don't think about that for redraft and dynasty enough. It's becoming a little bit more common. It needs to be more common. Stacking increases your ceiling, and it also gives you something you desperately need, correlation. Correlation is your best friend, and no one correlates better with your quarterback than the pass catcher on his own team. We did a stick-to-stacking article.
What's that?
A stick-to-stacking article. It looked back at data over the last 20 years, looking at over 5,000 games played in the NFL. And a stacked quarterback-wide receiver combo, 15.3% chance of booming, which is hitting 40 combined fantasy points. An unstacked quarterback-wide receiver combo, only 12%. And that might sound like a small edge, but small edges matter. You know what they do? They stack up.
Busted.
That was a swish, Mike.
No,
you didn't call it.
I didn't call it. I got it busted. I'm sorry. I don't want third place. I want to win a championship. Stacks help. The best scores often come from a stacked lineup. Just look at last year. The Cowboys stack of Dak and CeeDee Lamb last year had a higher percentage of fantasy championships
the Dak stack
than any other combination, which I don't like because Andy had them. How'd it work out?
Every championship, I've looked at this in our league of record. Every championship I have with 1, 2, 3, all 3 championships.
Yeah, you could stop counting there.
I can.
I know.
It was actually on the back of a stack.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. You go way back to Peyton and Demarius. You know, last year Dak and CeeDee. I remember going back to Peyton Manning and Dallas Drake. Like the stat, it's fun. The correlation is so powerful.
You want to know why it works? Because when you get into
Dallas
this,
Clark.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought there was a player I didn't remember. You said
No.
Dallas Drake.
I said Dallas Drake.
Did he?
Yeah.
That's fine.
That's a former NHL player. Dallas Clark, tight end for the Colts. Shout out Dallas Clark.
Yeah.
And Dallas Drake. Hey.
Last
get
year,
in
when you get to the playoffs, you're playing the best teams, right? It's like, you've got to play the other team that puts up a bunch of points. That combo last year in the semifinals and finals scored 51.5 points and 63.9 points. That's why you won a championship, Andy. So my favorite stacks this year, there are a couple ways to do it. You can either get your quarterback first. I like double tapping Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith. If you're at that 3-4 turn, boom, bam, baby. I just made my stack, and I don't have to guess if I get it later. I love both players. I also think Patrick Mahomes is slightly undervalued this year compared to, last year at least, and you can get Rashee Rice cheap. My backdoor stacks would be if I take T. Higgins. I like combining him with Joe Burrow, Jaden Reed and Jordan Love later in the draft. And then if you're lucky enough, I'm not targeting Tua or Dak personally in my leagues. But if I'm at the beginning of the draft, if I'm at the 2 or the 3 and I end up with Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb, you're darn right that when I'm later in the draft, I am now targeting the correlating Dak or Tua.
Yeah, that's a nice separator for those guys in that middle tier is to know you have the powerhouse wide receiver.
Yeah.
All right, we'll take a quick break and come back with our top 5. All right, we are going to jump in here. Here we go.
Number 5.
All right. I want to talk about quarterbacks and their ADP and the history of that because the quarterback position for fantasy football, there's been an evolution in the past 10 years.
Quite the timeline.
Because when we first started the show, it was late round QB, which that's another shout out to JJ for opening my eyes to that of you could get a quarterback late. Like it was actually detrimental to your team to draft a quarterback early when you could just get a guy later, a guy that that runs and he's going to give me points, or I can stream against bad defenses and make up points. And over time, the fantasy football community, they're getting wise to this, especially wise to the fact that a quarterback that runs, it is a true cheat code, and now those guys are moving up. Plus, the NFL is changing, and guys that run are now also airing it out. It's no longer Tim Tebow where it's, I need all the running because the passing won't be there. It's you get guys like Allen Hurts where you're getting a combination. That's why the guys are the super stud. So I took a look back at the past 4 years because things have really been changing recently. And I wanted to look how safe has quarterback drafting actually been. It's still tough. It is still tough. The hit rate of a top 12 quarterback in ADP is at 48%. And when I say a hit rate, I mean a guy finishing within one spot of his ADP. So like your quarterback 3, if he finishes a quarterback 4, I'm not going to hold that against him. That's fine. That's a fine pick. But if you're a couple spots, I counted that as a bust, and you were hitting at 48%. So then I said, well, is there a better way to look at it where it's not just top 12? Broke them down into 3 tiers of ADP, QB 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12. And the reason I did this is because the expected point threshold, it's pretty close for those, and they kind of separate. Drafting a top 4 QB, hitting at 44%.
Okay.
That's, for the margin of error, that's very good. Quarterback 5 through 8, that dropped down to 37.5%. That is not so great. And then quarterback 9 through 12, much, much higher at 62%. Granted.
That's not what you want.
No, that's not what you want. And just the expected points for them it's lower. It's easier to hit if they hit their ADP, it's not like a quarterback 5 hitting their ADP. And then I thought, well, let's look at this through the lens of ceiling, right? Just ceiling. And I want to see these buckets that I put together, QB 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, how often are they finishing as a top 4 guy? The top 4 ADP quarterbacks, that jumps up to 56%. So it kind of secures that, these quarterbacks that we've identified at the top, they've been coming through for us more often than they haven't. QB 5 through 8, that drops to 18%. But then here's where it gets weird. QB 9 through 12, finishing as a top 4 quarterback, 25%. So over the last 4 years, not only has that range of quarterback given you a safer outcome, a safer floor, less likely to bust, they're also giving you a slight edge of actually jumping into the top 4.
1 and 4?
Yeah. So it's like that's what these QBs 5 through 8, when we're talking about them, it's just this range of QB where it's nebulous. They're not, in the past 4 years, they haven't hit as often as the later guys. So it's just again, these are slight edges that we're looking for. And it's the quarterbacks who are in that range. It's Dak, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, and Jaden Daniels. Like, this is a 4-pack of QBs that align with this historical data of
3 pocket passers, 1 with the mobility.
Right. And just the point being, those are quarterbacks that I wanted to target, and this data is just backing that up even more of being willing to bypass those middle-tier guys, excluding – I'll take Kyler. He's at QB 8. But it's just, a slight edge to consider historically.
Isn't that nice, man, when you've got your ideas, you've got your priors, and you just get to confirm them? That's nice.
Yeah, it's pretty much what life's all about.
Number 4.
All right, we'll call this Build a Dynamic Duo. And so our Ultimate Draft Kit, we highlight the risk rating for a player, and we talk about upside ratings for a player. And we also talk about the benefits historically of having volatility on your roster, the ability to have a player go out and win you a week. But I think what's fundamental to that, and when I say build the dynamic duo, is that you need to make sure that you're maintaining a floor on your roster points-wise so that those volatile big performances mean something, that they're not undermined by an inverse, the bottom dropping
each other out.
Yeah, canceling each other out. So you can use the Ultimate Draft Kit to do this, and I wanted to highlight some of the kind of combinations that might make sense when placed together on a roster construction-wise, at different positions. So in the first half of the draft, you've got players that we would consider and rank in the UDK as safer, low-risk wide receivers. Devontae Smith has a risk rating of 3. That's very low. Michael Pittman at 3.7, Christian Kirk at 3. If you correlate those risk ratings to how you think about those players, it makes perfect sense, right? They are on the field all the time. They have a good history. They're kind of possession, go-to guys for their quarterbacks. Their floor is pretty high. But there are some other wide receivers that are great combos for those names that have more risk associated with them and more upside. Deebo Samuel, he's an 8.5 upside in the UDK. He comes with a 6 risk due to some volatility and injury. So that's a nice player. Maybe if you have a Deebo Samuel on your roster, Christian Kirk makes sense later in the draft. Tank Dell, he's a 7.7 upside. We love Tank Dell. He does contain some risk due to the fact that it's a nebulous situation. Stephon Diggs, how done is he? We know Nico Collins got the bag. Also, Tank Dell got hurt last year, and that's something you pay attention to. He's a great player to combine with a Michael Pittman, so you have volatility and upside, but you've got the floor. And then another one would be Devontae Adams. We know Devontae Adams at his best with good quarterback play, like if that happens, that is one of the best wide receivers in football. But he's got a 6.3 risk. He's older, which means that there's a risk due to age, and he's got currently unproven quarterback play, or at best, kind of like low-end starter play with Gardner Minshew. So Adams is a player that we saw it last year. He could win you the championship on 1 week. He can score 1 point and get shut down by, I think it was it L'Jarius Need?
Yeah.
So building a dynamic duo, setting that floor up so that your high-end players can have success, I think is really important. Same thing goes with the running back position. You can go through the UDK. You can look at the risk ratings in the upside and try to find that balance. And a lot of the times, you're not going to go into a draft saying, I'm going to ping pong between these. But as the draft is starting to form, look at those risk ratings at that point. I've got this guy on my team. The ballers have him at this risk rating with not a lot of upside. I'm going to target a higher volatility player later and build that dynamic duo.
Number 3.
This one's important, guys.
Oh, no. See, I like this show in particular because I did not look at anything either of you had prepared.
And it's real highbrow stuff.
Yeah, it's intellectual.
Yeah.
Probabilistically, you're going to really lean on it.
It's pretty much trained medical advice.
Yeah.
And this tip is take dumps now, not later.
You could translate this to life.
It's just
This
sound
is a
life
life
advice. It's
tip.
applicable
Constipation
to everyone
is
out
the
there.
leading cause of death in America.
That's true. You come for fantasy football advice, but you're going to stay for health tips from trained medical experts like myself.
Is the Falcon still in the studio?
He is amazingly. It does appear.
Checking.
He took dumps now.
Yeah, we had
Not later.
We had to change his seat because he takes the mid-show, and he
takes
takes
this
this
advice
advice
from you.
very seriously. But here's what take dumps now, not later means. I'm talking about your fab dumps. I'm talking about the difference between holding on to your cold, hard, fake cash. Also, if you're not playing in a fab league,
familiarize.
There's a free agent acquisition budget. You get $100 fake dollars or whatever budget your league decides, and everyone has that. And every week you're going to bid a certain amount on players. This also obviously would apply to a waiver priority system. If you've got a high order early in the season, and you got lucky with that, then you want to spend that capital early, not later. We talk about it. We build a foundation at the draft to set you up for success, but you don't win your championship at the draft. That used to be a tip we said all the time, because people would care so much about the draft, and then they would fall away and maybe not make the roster moves and the waiver wire pickups that they needed to in season, and then they're like, I'm always good, but I never win the championship. This is how you're going to win a championship. You're going to spend your dumps early, okay? You're going to take them dumps, and you're going to take them early. We've also got, look, a little peel back the curtain. We have a new waiver wire tool coming out. It is not talked about. I'm not going to tell you about the ultimate dashboard. I'm not going to do it.
No, you would not know about that unless you had been to jointhefoot.com.
Right. But if you stay tuned, we've got something really cool that's going to help you take advantage of this. Here's an example. So that we had this massive article done by one of our former great writers, Matt DeSorbo, when
he was formerly great.
Right.
Now he's not great.
Well,
right.
He's no longer with us, so he's not great anymore.
If you leave the footballers.
Yeah, you're still great.
You're formerly great. You're formerly great.
You're still great.
Yeah, he's pretty great. If you want,
He
come
is.
back.
So, but he did all the data, and the truth is week one breakouts have a higher fantasy point per game average. This isn't just, oh, you get them more weeks, which is also true. But they actually average more fantasy points. And he wrote that back in 2021. We went and did the research.
Can I jump in really quick? I just want to reiterate what you said because I don't want it to get lost in this dump.
Sure.
Which is, this advice is, if you spin the fab early on players early in the season, a lot of the times we have come out and said, one of the advantages, do you get them for more games during the year? But you're saying...
I'm saying they're better players.
They literally score more fantasy points regardless of the amount of weeks you have them.
That's right. That's exactly right. This article was old, so we went back and looked at, like, okay, well, was it still true? Is it still true last year? Take a look at the Week 1 and Week 2 pickups from last year. Kyron Williams was 6% rostered on Sleeper in Week 1. Puka Nacua, 10% rostered in Week 1. Nico Collins, Sam Laporta, Rashee Rice. Those were the pickups in Week 1. Week 2, you still had Kyron Williams somehow out there in 63% of leagues. Devon Achane. Nico was still available. Tank Dell, Jaden Reed. I mean, these are players that helped win championships.
Turd Ferguson.
Now let's take a look at some fab dumps later on, the best available fab dumps later. Like,
I feel like I'm
oh my
about
gosh.
to be attacked.
You're not because it's not on the list.
It's not, but you got demarcadoed.
I'm already demarcado.
I mean, you dumped a bunch of fab
the
later.
fab dumpster.
Yeah. And so, Week 8.
You owes me internet money.
Week 8, you're spinning your fab dumps on Craig Reynolds and Roschon Johnson and Jordan Mason. Week 9, you got Zach Charbonnet and Darrell Henderson, Jahan Dotson, Pop Douglas. Like, hey, he was okay.
Yeah.
But like these are not week-winning, guys, league-winning guys. So when you start the season, and this is also kind of a tip B,
Ooh.
is at the end of your draft, grab
Dump
guys.
plus.
Dump plus. You can grab players who you're fine to cut after Week 1. Like, you're gonna see and you're gonna know they hit that expectation or they didn't. Like a Keon Coleman, right? Like, that might be someone where you go, oh, he's not the starter, and you're okay with it, or whoever it is. But you want to make those transactions and go hard in the paint. And we'll bring this back up when it's Week 1 and Week 2 and tell you, don't hold on to your fab.
Yeah, I anecdotally, I know that this has been very beneficial in the past. And I've always targeted it because I know I have more weeks of that player and more guarantees, more players to trade, right? You have them early. You've got more assets to trade. It's good advice. All right.
Number 2.
I want to talk about
Nope, you got to name it.
the importance of offense.
All right, thank you.
Is
Thank
what
you.
I will
What a-
title
thank you.
this, which it does. It piggybacks a little bit what I was talking about, finding the late round running backs that could sneak into the top 24. This is more about maybe there are players that are early in ADP that I should avoid because there is a big red flag on their offense that maybe I'm pushing it to the side, and maybe I need to let it wave in the wind and really alert me to what is going on. It's hard to be a good fantasy player on a bad offense. That seems like a common sense thing. But when I dove into it, to me, it's way worse than you really think about if you're on a bad offense. Right? Last year, 9 wide receivers were drafted as top 36 wide receivers. Their teams finished as a bottom 10 offense. So the year went bad for that team. Of those 9 players, only 2 of them met or exceeded their ADP value. In 2022, 12 wide receivers were drafted as top 36 guys who, unfortunately, they ended up on bad offenses. 3 of the 12 met or exceeded their ADP value. Over the past 4 years, 24% of only 24% of the guys who end up on bad teams become a draft day value. Go to the running back position. Last year, 9 running backs drafted as top 24 running backs end up on bottom 10 scoring offenses. 2 of those 9 met their ADP. In 2022, it was 2 of 8. It's the exact same percentage of guys who are on bad offenses that fail you for their draft day ADP, 24%. And it's just it needs to be built into your process of looking at an offense, top-down approach. Not just the player, look at the top-down approach. And, yes, there's ways to overcome it. You can volume your way there. Look at Breece Hall or Derrick Henry. They were on bad offenses, but their volume was so high that they were able to overdo it. But fantasy football, we're looking at probability. We're trying to find a slight edge that might tip me off on, is this player doomed to be a draft day bust and not return the value that I am selecting them in the draft. Now, look, identifying the bottom 10 offenses, that can be very difficult. I get that. But there are definitely teams out there where you know that it would be an absolute shock for them to become or to jump out of the bottom 10, like the Patriots,
Right.
the Broncos, the Raiders, the Steelers. Like, I feel pretty confident that at the end of the year, these will be.
Did you say the Giants?
The Giants are in my list as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say, like, I know what the bottom 10 will be. I'm going to identify all bottom. It's the bottom 10. I know a few teams that are probably going to end up there. And if their players are being drafted high, maybe I want to look elsewhere.
Devontae Adams. Yeah. I hear you.
Like I said, Devontae Adams can volume his way out, but he was one of those disappointments. He was ADP wide receiver 8.
He already was a disappointment last year.
Yeah, he finished as 11, so you're like, oh,
Literally,
okay, but that's not what you drafted.
I think like 12, 13 years ago when I was playing fantasy, without all the data, without the fundamental knowledge that you're spreading, I came to a draft one year and I was like, I'm going to draft players on good teams. Like, I went into it. That was my entire draft strategy as a new player. Was 1 year I just said I'm taking players on good teams, and it was just this overarching thought that, like, you don't want to be kind of just praying all the stars align every week, right? You get out there and you're like, oh my gosh, Aiden O'Connell, just make a couple passes, just get it going. Having to make that bet over and over and over again, it's very, very hard. All right, we got one more tip for you because otherwise it would just be 9. So here you go.
Number 1.
All right. We're all going to do this together. This is going to be kind of like a group exercise.
We're going to say the title at the same time?
No. I'm just saying that the listenership needs to, I'm going to explain what this is, and I want us to practice this together.
Okay.
We're going to call the number 1 tip and trick this year.
Start fresh. See?
Start fresh.
I did it.
Yeah, you did.
Are we we're going to unburden ourselves here?
I'm going to play you some music.
Ooh.
And we're going to let go of the pain from last year. And we're going to let go of the burns. And we're going to let go of the baggage. Mike, DeAndre Swift, histories. We're going to not let it hold us back for making the wrong choices because they hurt us last year. And so I'm going to play some smooth jazz, and we'll just take a moment.
Okay.
And we'll just
we're going to reflect.
We're just going to let it go.
All right.
Ooh. Wait.
Yeah, let the lights come down low.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Who hurt you in fantasy last year? Doesn't matter. Let it go. You are healed. You are free of that burden.
Did that work, Mike? Is it starting to?
It is.
I didn't know this song went this long.
I have been talking to a
therapist.
Kyle, yes, yeah. But Kyle the Borgogan about this type of a thing, and it's like players that you should forgive them, let it go, and
it's not easy.
It is not, and there's a big one for me.
Okay, are we?
Let's work through it.
It's T. Higgins.
Nice.
Like, I think I gotta. Oh, there's the lights again.
He's not gonna hurt you.
I gotta forgive him. I think that using the last unfortunate injuries of the past couple years against him,
you're ready to move forward.
Yeah, I've worked through the pain of the offseason, and I'm ready to be hurt again.
There's only one person in every league that should not start fresh, that should hold on to the past, and that should make the rest of their league mates eat it.
Yeah.
And that is the champion of every league.
Forget nothing.
Live in the past.
Forget nothing.
Rub it in all year. By the way, Mike, are you a champion?
I sure am.
Congratulations on that, champ.
Are you a champ?
I am also a champion.
Congratulations.
Woo! Gonna hold on to the past, baby.
I hate you guys.
Yeah, well, that makes sense due to the
Do you
time.
want us to start a third league that you can win?
Hey, first time in 10 years I didn't win one.
Every
so
time.
you eat it.
Every time. All right. We have 2 more shows this week. One's a mock draft. One's the My Guys episode. Don't miss it.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.